If you're wondering if you're watching the right channel, you are. That was something that I put together in honor of the Bridge Commander London experience that I was invited to, well, experience. And this video is sharing that experience with you and also looking at how doing Star Trek Live has made my Star Trek Adventures 2 game that much stronger. And that's what I'm going to talk about in today's video. First of all, let me just say that Bridge Commander sponsored me and my friends to go along and experience the entire thing. And so, well, my review, it's not skewed because it really was... It was mind-blowing, absolutely mind-blowing. There are very few instances where you as a human being get to experience the chaos, the confusion, the elation, the triumph, the terror, the panic, all of those wonderful emotions, just such a roller coaster of emotions. And we do get a few chances. Now, there was Bridge Commander, the VR experience, which came out and is no longer supported, sadly. And that kind of puts you into the commander seat of a Star Trek adventure, but there were only like 4 adventures and it was great, but it didn't go anywhere. Then you get Bridge Commander London, and they have got dozens and dozens of different missions with real actors who come in and do these amazing performances.
You're a coward! You're a coward!
No, I'm not a coward.
Your brother would fight me!
Well, I don't know about that. I mean,
Your brother!
The Irene is gone.
This is for you, Captain. Yes.
There's pyrotechnics and there's smoke and it's all linked and there's doors that activate by hand control. It is the closest thing you will get to being onto a Star Trek bridge. Then there's Star Trek Adventures 2, and I think that really resonates with me, that I could play Star Trek Adventures 2, have a similar emotional roller coaster of emotions without actually having to spend $1 million and build a Star Trek bridge. Kickstarter, anybody? No. Anyway, so Bridge Commander, the entire idea is that you are playing different roles on a starship bridge, and all of the consoles of the bridge are linked together into a central program. That basically runs a scripted adventure-type scenario, which the creators of Bridge Commander are actually writing themselves, so they are unique to the experience. It does mean that you can go back time and time and time again, and you will have a completely different experience every single time. Even if you do the same adventure, if you're in a different position, if you're doing sensors or tactical or engineering or whatever, it's going to be a completely different experience, and I really like that. So how do we take that learning and translate it into our Star Trek Adventures 2 experience? Well, what was the learning from Bridge Commander? Well, in Bridge Commander, I got to play the captain. It's my show. I got to be the captain, okay? I'm the captain, and that's it, right?
Coming as well.
Shields up! Battle stations!
And the captain was not doing what any captain in Starfleet has done before on the show. Nice, calm decision-making, a little moment of emotional support for some crew members, some pensive thinking, and then some swift reactions. No. This captain was sitting on top of a crew of amazing people who all had so much information to share that there were times where I'm like, everybody is shouting at me. I don't actually know what's going on, but I'm going to rely on every single one of my officers knowing what they're doing. And that's the first lesson that I want to impart from that experience, is that when you are running Star Trek Adventures 2 games, impress upon the players who are playing the captain, the first officer, anybody who's in charge. Do not try to micromanage or steal the thunder of somebody else. Let science do sciencey things. Let the helmsman do their helms stuff. In our case, our helmsman was a great helmsman. There was one point where we were all pointing at the screen going, asteroid. Asteroid, and then we were all involuntarily leaning to the right, and he just nipped around that asteroid, the little daredevil that he was.
Yeah, positive. It's a stressful mission, but I think it's all worked out okay.
Everybody has a job to to do, and everyone should be allowed to do it. So the first lesson is shut up and do your job. Don't try and do anybody else's job. And if somebody else is sitting there going, I don't really know what to do, then you as the GM need to be prompting them and giving them that kind of information. It might not be a lot of information, but it is still information nonetheless. The ship of Bridge Commander is not just the bridge. There is a cargo bay, there's a brig, there's a medical bay, there's an engineering section, there's even a shuttle that you can get onto. We didn't get onto it in our experience because, well, we just didn't get that far, but there is a lot of different areas to the ship. And that was something else that I noticed. We often take for granted when we are watching something like Star Trek that the characters leave the bridge and the next scene is them walking onto the engineering deck or knee-deep in cables and wires. That's because of editing. In real life, our poor engineer, who was also filming a lot of the stuff as well, was trying to film and trying to engineer. And what makes Bridge Commander, I think, so unique from like a virtual reality experience is that he had to go and physically take canisters out of things and put them in places and swap and run around and recharge and do all sorts of weird and wonderful things. It was absolutely immersive. But that took time.
OCP unit. Here we go. Okay, I'm going to take this out, I believe, and get a new one. Where's my new ones? OCP locker. Right, spent OCP. Spent goes in there. OCP locker. This is a fresh one. All right, we're on. Okay, here's a fresh one. In it goes. Right.
And whilst he was doing that, his station was going unmonitored. So poor old sensor operator then had to jump over and monitor engineering and kind of cover and didn't really know what was going on there. And it was an absolute blast. How does this translate into something for Star Trek Adventures 2? Well, I feel that we generally will run on the Star Trek TV show premise that you leave the scene and the very next moment you are able to act. Why? Well, because keeping the characters, while you're in the turbolift for the next 2.5 rounds of combat, it's going to take you 12 seconds to get to where you're going. That's boring. That's not going to help, right? So that does slow down the action. So in this case, the lesson that is learned is you cut out the boring bits. Don't worry about the mundane stuff. Don't sweat it. If you're kind of GM who goes, this is a 1 kilometer long starship. It's going to take you an hour to walk from one end to the other. Say that. Let them know that it's going to take them an hour, but then jump straight ahead. Unless you have something specific planned to happen en route, make that route as short as possible. Another major lesson that I took away from the Bridge Commander experience is, as the captain, you're being bombarded with this information. You have your own console in Bridge Command where you can look at your mission reports and all that kind of stuff. But the role of the captain is not to define or to decide the micro elements of each station. It is to look at the mission parameters, to understand this is what we're trying to achieve, and then to think big picture only. So in our particular case, an experimental new automated ship had been hijacked, stolen, effectively, with one of our more prestigious commanders on board. I knew, as the captain, we had two priorities. One was to get back the captain, and the second was to get back this new experimental ship. But what that meant was that we couldn't just destroy every single enemy en route. We needed to disable them. We weren't trying to start a war. We were just trying to get back what was ours. And then once we got there, we needed to convince the automated ship that we were allies. I had so many visions of B'Elanna Torres fighting with the Dreadnought, that Cardassian missile, and the AI trying to convince it that they were on the right side. Miles O'Brien defeating and overcoming so many Cardassian automated AI systems. Or even Geordi and Data fighting with the computer and the holodeck to try and override it. We had that exact experience, except that instead of me as the captain telling the communications officer, oh, you must do this and do that, my objective was simple. The communications officer needed to tell me, could they convince the experimental prototype to follow us home, or did we need to destroy it? And then that was on the communications officer to handle it. So I don't even know how he did it. I don't know how he did it. But he did. After a few minutes of him doing stuff and talking and communicating and typing code backwards and forwards, I was busy dealing with the captain that we had got back, who had some kind of drug serum thing, which our non-lethal weapons tactical officer took off to the med bay and did their thing in the med bay. As the captain, I didn't have to go to the med bay. I was just watching and listening and understanding and again, keeping to that big picture. And it was things like, what was the threat to us? So I needed that captain to give us information. Are they going to come after us? Are there more ships? Are there ships hiding in the nebula? I needed my sensor people to give me that kind of information. Not the minutia, but the big picture stuff. And I'm very happy to say that when we got back, some promotions were handed out. And I got a promotion for running a fairly cool ship. We did get back the captain. We got back the prototype. And everyone was still alive, so that was a pretty good outcome. Rightly so, deservedly so. Our communications officer also got a promotion because he talked down an AI and dealt with drunk insubordination and dealt with pirates and all sorts of things, whilst having a captain shouting, get me this, or get me that, achieve this outcome, or achieve that outcome. And then our non-lethal weapons expert got a promotion in the field of sciences for helping cure the captain of whatever it was that she was injected with by the enemy.
I'm doing great. I'm just trying to cure a captain. That will be no pressure at all.
The entire experience cannot be spoken about. You have to go and you have to experience it. And it really is fantastic. Now, it is based in London. I know that they do a special show at UK Games Expo in Birmingham. So if you can't get to London, you can also try and get it at UK Gaming Expo in May. Now, you can also join me in May at UK Games Expo for some Star Trek adventures too. I'll be running that on Saturday and Sunday. Tickets are already available. Link down below. And if you do want to book tickets for Bridge Commander, link down below as well. And you can go and book your tickets there. Now, I do have to say a massive, massive thank you to my wonderful friends who joined me.
It has been an interesting shakedown of this crew, but I am proud of each and every one of them. We rose to the occasion and we managed to retrieve the captain and the prototype ship. So we went beyond.
Who were an amazing crew. Everybody did exactly what they needed to do. Another huge thank you to my wonderful, wonderful husband, who was the engineer and the cameraman, and who was running around trying to keep the ship from falling apart. And of course, to you for giving me this channel, for giving me this platform, and for allowing me to go and experience Bridge Commander and then report back to you. Anyway, next week, we talk about silly missions and why you need to have some silly missions. That's right, silly missions. And if that hasn't piqued your interest or scared you away, I don't know what will. And now, I wish you long life and happy gaming.